Hello YouTube, welcome back to the second episode of my Flight Simulator 2024 career mod. In this episode we'll be going through two ways to fly first flight missions. The first time I will hand fly the whole mission, show you how to do that, and we'll do another first flight mission and I'll show you how to use the autopilot in the 172, seeing as though the system is there, so in my eyes if it's there you might as well use it. So we'll go ahead and do the first one where I will hand fly everything now. So as you can see, we are doing a flight tour above Warwickshire. This is the path we'll be taking. We'll be departing this runway, making a left-hand turn, and we'll circle Warwickshire around 1,100 feet, below 79 knots I think it is, and then we'll head back into the long final entry and land back on the same runway. So when you first load into the sim, you'll be stood outside the plane. With mouse and keyboard you walk around with W, S and D. Look around by moving your mouse, and you basically want to right click to get your cursor up. Just left click on all these bits that need removing. Kind of want to do these bits because you get penalised for using the skip function over here. So if you want full credits and experience, make sure you are not using the skip function. Once you've removed the chocks, the engine covers, the pitot heat cover and the port cover here, you just left click on the door and you will enter the plane. When you're in the plane, you hit enter and it'll
Everything's ready, Laura. You can initiate boarding.
The boarding of the passengers, where you'll get this little cutscene. So there's Mark and his friend. So Control E to complete the startup of the plane. Wait for the engine to start.
Hope you're ready to
when it starts, I like to make sure that both screens are on, so
Hey,
click this
Captain,
button here and
meet
activates
Mark.
this screen.
He's keen on discovering the sights around Warwickshire. He's one of our friends, so I'm counting on you to treat him well and show him around. By the way, he's got his wife with him.
It's his
If the
wife.
seatbelts are fastened, you're ready for takeoff. Engine started. Let's go.
So what I'm going to do first is hit enter to announce the taxi, and I'm going to put
Echo Golf,
one notch of
Victor,
flats
Victor,
down.
traffic,
So
Cessna Golf. Lima,
sent
Lima,
flats
Mike
just because we're
Yankee
taking off from a
is
grass
taxiing
runway.
to
I want
runway
to
3.
make sure we get up. So taxiing I normally do from the outside. What you want to do is release the parking brakes.
Nice to meet you, Captain. I'm Mark.
Add a little bit of
Never had
engine
the
power
chance
just
to
to
fly
get the
over
plane
Baltimore
rolling.
before, and I'm thrilled. So I'm counting on you to show me lots of cool stuff around my place.
Hey there, my name's Sophie. I'm Mark's wife. Thanks for taking me up today.
And once the plane has started moving at a reasonable rate, steering with the rudder, I will drop the engine down to idle now, and the plane should happily just coast along. So you're just following these blue arrows here into that hold short marker, ensuring that you don't speed at the bottom left of the screen there. Doesn't go above 20 knots because you'll be penalised for going above the taxi speed. Just adding a little bit of engine power just to keep the plane steadily rolling, and then dropping the engine back down to idle, so you don't need the engine on all the time to taxi. The plane will just happily roll along with the engine idled. Keep adding a little bit of power just to keep it going. Again, you don't have to rush these, so just take your time with them. No time pressure for these first flight missions, so just do it all in your own time. Here we are approaching the hold short, so position the plane in the blue box in front and apply brakes. It's just normal brakes, you shouldn't need parking brakes at this point. So we stop at the hold short, hit enter to announce the takeoff.
When do we start?
Echo Golf, Victor, Victor, traffic, Cessna Golf. Lima, Lima, Mike Yankee taking off runway. Tree departure to the south.
So once we made sure we've announced the takeoff again, high engine power just to get the plane rolling. Following the blue arrows to the end of the runway. So here we are, just making the U-turn to align with the runway. So we're taking off from runway 3 today. With your runways and line up with the centre, you know you're at the right runway. So runway 03 means that you were taking off at 30, so you had a 0 on the end, and that's how you know your runway heading, so 30 degrees. So in the top left you can see that we're pointing at the number 3. So underneath my camera you can just make it out. Before every takeoff I will apply parking brake. For realism setting, I'll put all these lights on. Again, takeoff procedure, normal takeoff procedure, full power, around 55 knots, we rotate. We'll do that now. Parking brake off. Full power applied. A little bit of right rudder to contact the left-hand drift. There we go, airspeed is alive. Coming up to 55 knots, gently pulling back on the stick. There we go, wheels off the ground. Keeping aligned with that initial
stunning,
climb.
isn't it?
That's going to climb to 900 feet, so that's what we'll do at full power. Again, aiming for 75 knots, which is optimum climb speed. Just approaching 900 feet now. And then for this example we're just going to follow these blue boxes and fly to where the actual city is. So we'll set power at 2,300 RPM or thereabouts. And we'll collapse up to 0. Add a little bit of trim to about 12% trim. There we go.
Everything okay?
Go for
Our pilot
level
is
and
treating us
flat.
right. This is an amazing
Right.
experience.
I'm glad
And as
the
I said,
flight's
left-hand
everything you
turns to
hoped
where we're
for.
actually doing the sightseeing.
I'll give you some space to enjoy it.
At this point we want to keep our altitude around 1,100 feet because that's the altitude we'll have to actually do the flying. So a nice gentle turn to the left.
Relax, Mark. You're gripping the seat so hard you're going to break your hand.
People are looking up at us. Hey, I see war cheer. We've got a clear view of everything from here. I love it.
Everything down below looks so tiny.
There we go, just adding the power back in now. As you can see, altitude of 1,100, speed below 87 knots. Pitch up and trim down just to reduce the speed a little bit. Just fly this circle, and that bar below will just slowly fill up as we fly around the circle. And no need to rush any of this, you've got all the time in the world. there you go, just finished circling Warwickshire. So again, you want to set your power and head back to the long final entry, and then it's a standard VFR landing, which I covered in the first episode. So 10 to 20% flaps, 65 knots on landing, descending from about 1,000 to 1,100 feet. So we'll go to the long entry now and do that. Making sure whenever you see in the top right to hit enter to contact ATC, just to do that. So here we are, just entering long final now. We've got one notch of flaps down. Go back into the cockpit, we can see the runway in front of us. And nose up and trim down just to take off some of that airspeed. Look off with the fucking... It's so shit. Just turn the auto trim off there. Now add another notch of flaps just to help with the grass runway and with the speed. Lining up with the runway, dropping the throttle. All that runway threshold now, so throttle is now idle. And again, just flaring to about 5 degrees and holding that flare, just letting the plane fall out of the sky. Flaring now. Buttery smooth. Applying the brakes. Following them arrows to the hold short. Again, making sure you're below 20 knots for your taxiing when you're off the runway. We'll head to hold short now. Back to the external view for the taxi. Resetting flaps up, resetting any trim that you've got set. You don't have to reset the flaps and the trim, you're not going to be penalised, it's just a habit I like to get into. These grass runways are always a bit buggy with the taxiing, because as you can see it's going to ask us to stop at the hold short, then we're going to have to pull a U-turn. I don't want to go past it just in case it bugs out, so I will go into the hold short this way. Applying the brakes. Enter to announce the taxi.
Echo Golf Victor Traffic Cessna Golf. Lima Mike Yankee is taxiing to parking.
easy to impress the
So
locals,
here we are at
but
the
I see
parking
they're
stand.
smiling.
Set your
That's
parking
cool.
brake.
Well done.
Control Shift E to shut down the plane. There we go. So I will show you how to do it with the autopilot next. So here again you join me at the hold shot. This is where I will set up the autopilot. So the first thing you want to do for the autopilot is basically set your altitude with this knob here to maybe 1,200 above your current altitude. So we'll class my current altitude as 200 feet. So I will twist this knob until the blue numbers above the altitude gets to 1,200. So the big knob is increments of 1,000. You can see there. And the little knob is increments of 100. Next thing we want to do is hit this FLC button, which stands for flight level change. FLC will come up in green here. You want to press these up and down buttons here to set the speed that you will climb to that altitude. So we know that the optimum speed for the Cessna is 75 knots, so I'll keep pressing this button until the blue numbers above our airspeed gets to 775. You can also scroll with the scroll wheel if the button is stationary to scroll up on it. Scroll and keep scrolling until I get to 75. I've gone above it there, so I'll just press the button below just to go down. There we go, 75 knots. Next thing, we're going to be using the heading for the autopilot today, so we'll hit the heading button. You'll see it'll arm the heading tracking, and we want to twist this heading knob until the blue arrows here match up with our runway heading initially. That is runway 7, so I'm going to twist this so we get to 70 degrees. So that's 07 for the runway, add a 0 after it, gives our runway heading. Again, can scroll on the mouse wheel. There we go. So the autopilot is all set up. We're set up to go to 1,200 feet, 75 knots, following the heading, which is this blue bug here. So we'll take off as normal. Bonus with setting up the autopilot at the hold short is you can do a rolling takeoff. So I will roll straight onto the runway here. Apply the power. Full power now. Normal takeoff, 55 knots rotate. Airspeed is alive. Using the rudder just to keep aligned with the runway. Go 55 knots, pull back. And arm the autopilot. So in the middle there, AP in green, that means the autopilot is armed. The autopilot is aiming for 1,200 feet at 75 knots. Following our blue heading bug. So that's going to climb to 650 feet, so at any point we can always just change the number that it's aiming for. I'll aim for 800 for now. Now when we want to make the turn, all we do is turn this knob here to move the blue bug on the radar, and that will turn the aircraft for us. So I will turn that now and head for our destination. I'm going to again set the altitude at 1,100 feet because that's normally what it wants us to fly at.
Sophie?
So
Enjoying
again,
the view?
Sophie, thanks for checking in. Having a great time, and it's surely thanks to our pilot.
I'm happy for you. I'll let you two enjoy the moment.
so again, just spinning that heading bug until the plane points at the target. Get some of the power out there just so the RPM is about 2,300. Spinning the heading bug.
Look at the view. The colors are amazing. It feels surreal.
Don't sink, don't sink, don't sink.
I'll just set the altitude at 1,100. Again, hit the flight level change and scroll down so the plane climbs at 75 knots.
We'll share the pics on our socials. It's gonna blow some minds. Here's Penelin. I wasn't prepared to feel this emotional about the view.
Everything down
So
below
about-
looks so tiny.
It will hold at 1,500 so you can take engine power off just to lower your airspeed at this point. It wants at 1,300, so again spin that, hit this, set it to 75 knots so it climbs up a little bit. And you just want to spin the heading indicator either way so it will bank around the heading at this point. And all you have to do now is keep spinning that heading indicator to keep the plane within them blue circle and blue markers. Taking off power if you need to lose airspeed. You don't need to worry about the altitude at this point because the aircraft will hold your altitude for you. There we go, we've circled the area, so we want to point the heading indicator again at the final point. We'll let the autopilot fly us to final. The beauty of that is you can set up taking off power, setting up your flaps before you get to final, and the autopilot will just hold your altitude. So you want your altitude set at about 1,000 feet above the runway altitude, so runway altitude is 200. Set the autopilot to 1,200 and just let it fly us down to that speed, to that altitude,
St. Ethan traffic
and then we'll
Cessna
just
Golf.
hand land it
India,
as
India,
we
Mike
have with
Foxtrot, 4
the
miles
other two
northwest,
flights.
1,300 feet inbound to land runway
I can't wait
07.
to tell everyone back home about this.
I believe you've got what it takes to bounce back and make it right. I'm sure our guests had a thrill over their home region anyway.
So there you go, guys. That's 2 ways to fly the first flight mission, using and not using the autopilot. Later on in the career mode, the game will give you instructions on how to use the autopilot, but my thoughts are if it's there in the 172, you might as well use it to make your life a little bit easier at this point. But yeah, I will speak to you in the next one. Goodbye.